Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 edition of the SANS and Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich and I'm recording from Jacksonville, Florida. Well, we got an interesting diary today by Didier about how to download a partial zip file from a website. First of all, the question is, why would you do this? Wouldn't you end up with a corrupt file? Well, that's sort of where Didier's trick comes in. Sometimes the file that you may attempt to download from a particular website is just very large. You don't want to waste a lot of bandwidth for just downloading basically a small part, basically one file that's part of a larger zip file. Of course, this only works if this larger zip file includes multiple individual files. Let's say it's some malware and the only thing you're really interested in is, because you already know the malware, is like a configuration file that comes with the malware. So the way you go about it, and Didier walks you through the details, is that you basically take advantage of the HTTP range header. If a web server, and most web servers out of the box will support the range header, then you can tell the web server to only download part of a particular response. So you start out by first downloading just the beginning of the file. That will include the index that includes all the files that are part of that zip file, including an offset where each individual file starts. Next, you then use the range header again in order to tell the web server, hey, only send me the content starting at this particular offset. And then you can also basically tell it only to the next offset, where then the next file starts, which means you'll just get that snippet that you're actually interested in. The range header is really conceived for audio video streaming, where you often just sort of download partial files. But like I said, it's usually supported in modern web servers. So a great little application here, saves you time, saves you bandwidth in order to just get the part of a particular file that you're interested in. And again, a lot of the details, how to actually analyze the data, how to set the right offsets and such, you can find in Didier's diary. And the Ukrainian CERT is warning of an interesting trick that they're seeing employed against government users in Ukraine. The trick here is that an attacker is claiming to be a security auditor from the respective organization and then requests access to the user system using AnyDesk. Now, there's a little twist here, and they're explaining that in this bulletin, is that the CERT Ukraine actually sometimes does use AnyDesk to remotely help users. So attackers may adapt this particular technique to use other software, depending on what software is kind of popular in your particular organization. It's often not that difficult to figure out. This is really sort of an interesting social engineering trick. It's not fundamentally new. Sometimes, of course, also just simple phone calls claiming to come from a system administrator, but something to probably include in your awareness training, and also where you do want to establish some procedures around how your users are able to positively identify unauthorized administrators if they're being offered any kind of remote assistance like this. And one of the web application vulnerabilities that I always consider one of sort of the up and coming, if not already sort of a big vulnerability, is server-side request forgery, in part because more and more of our web applications are built around APIs and are very prolific in sending out HTTP requests. Latest example is Azure's DevOps tools. We have a great blog post here by Torius Brian Redderstall. Sorry if I mispronounced the name a little bit here, but Torius is pointing out some vulnerabilities in the Azure DevOps tool. First of all, a relatively straightforward server-side request forgery, but then Microsoft actually tried to fix the issue And the blog then points out how the fix was bypassable in part because of DNS rebinding. DNS rebinding is a vulnerability that is by far not new. It's an older vulnerability, but again, with more and more sort of our security being based around things like same origin policy and sort of based on host names, DNS rebinding keeps coming up. And interesting blog post, particular sort of, I think, a good read for some of the red teamers here, because it describes in detail how this particular vulnerability was discovered and exploited. Well, and this is it for today. Thanks for listening. And also thanks for any feedback that you have. A couple people commented on the new video format and maybe adjusting the content. As usual, if you do have any stories that I should cover, that I think I should have covered but missed, or maybe a story I covered and I should not have covered, let me know. I'm always open to feedback. I'm also open to people suggesting stories. If you're not like a marketing person, just throwing random stories at me, particularly if this is something that you have worked on, please let me know. And that's it for today. Thanks, and talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.